Hey everyone, welcome to the SaaS Sessions podcast. I'm Abhilash and I'll be your host for today. Today we have Justin Alva on the podcast. Justin is a seasoned marketer who's been working in the startup space for quite some time. He's currently the AVP Growth at Smallcase. Welcome to the podcast, Justin. How are you doing?
Thanks for the introduction, Abhilash. I'm doing great. Very excited to be talking to you today.
Awesome, Justin. Could you tell us a little bit about your career path so far? Like how exactly have you gotten into the entire startup ecosystem?
Sure. So I graduated with a degree in electrical and electronics engineering. Never really used that for the rest of my life thus far. But coming from an engineering background has helped me, become a lot more analytical. But I think what I discovered was that I had a passion for understanding people and how they behave. The engineering side got me fascinated about product, whereas the more creative side got me interested in marketing. And that's how I decided, the best place for me to use that skill set would be to get into startups where I get a lot more ownership. Things move a lot more faster than in larger companies. Um, so I started, back in 2009-10. I started up at the time. I think Groupon was, just getting big in the US, and we were building something similar down in India. It didn't work out, and we shut down in about 10 months. But it was a great experience, and I realized that I loved starting up, working in startups, and so on. From there, I worked on a bunch of things, including, setting up the e-commerce for a sports content platform. Um, then I ended up starting up again in 2014, where we were building a platform for visual artists to monetize their creative assets. So they could sell their artwork as art prints, posters, t-shirts, and other lifestyle products. So the target market was India for buyers, but we had artists from all around the world. Very similar to platforms like Redbubble or Society6. Um, so that was a very interesting experience. It taught me a lot. We managed to uh, do some interesting things in terms of customer acquisition, retention, and so on. Uh, I moved out of Cupic and started working on an aerospace project. There was a competition called the Google Lunar X Prize, and there was an Indian team called Team Indus that was building a lunar lander. Um, Essentially, I worked on building the marketing side of things. Uh, we had to figure out a way to raise non-equity capital for the $65 million project. So I worked on building brand, primarily leading things across digital, but also working on the entire marketing strategy across content, PR, and a host of other things. And it's been close to 2 years that now I've been working on another interesting, product called Smallcases. The company has built a new financial product that enables retail investors to invest in a basket of stocks, which we call Smallcases. And it's based on ideas, themes, and strategies. So, for example, if you think electric vehicles are going to be uh, you know, the mode of transportation over the next 10 years, then you can invest in a bunch of companies that are building this electric vehicle ecosystem. These are a basket of stocks that are listed on the Indian Stock Exchange, the National Stock Exchange, NSE. So electric mobility is one example of a small case. We have many such small cases available. So my role over here is I look after brand marketing, paid marketing, and while the business for a long time was B2B2C, uh, we have launched a B2C app for which I work with the product manager on the growth side of things. So yeah, that's my career thus far. done a whole bunch of things across industries and domains, but my core focus has always been growth, marketing, a bit of product, and the business side of things.
Perfect, Justin. Thanks for taking us through your career. Definitely, there are a lot of varied experiences out there. And today we'd like to pick your brain and try to understand how exactly do people go about building a marketing strategy. Uh, like just coming into today's time, how have you been dealing with this whole lockdown situation? Like, have you seen some trends around COVID in general?
So I think this has been talked about quite a lot amongst marketers. So I'm afraid I might not be able to add anything new, but I could summarize some of the things that people have spoken about and stuff that I've seen firsthand. Uh, a lot of people have cut down, brands have cut down on paid marketing. Even companies that are doing uh, fairly well, or rather companies that aren't affected too badly, even they've moved away from spending a lot of money on advertising. Obviously, there are certain companies that stand to benefit, and they've been going more aggressively. So that drop in spending on paid marketing has resulted in the cost of advertising on digital platforms dropping drastically. We've seen CPC, CPM trending downwards. At the same time, people are consuming a lot more content online. Websites are seeing an increase in traffic, and the websites I'm talking about are content-driven websites, right? People are consuming a lot more of blogs, webinars, newsletters, podcasts, and hence I've seen a lot of people shift their marketing toward creating great content, focusing on education, and this is something that has happened across industries, and that's something that we've also been trying to do here at Smallcase.
Pretty interesting, Justin. Like, I do understand that these are difficult times for businesses, and everyone's trying to use content and reach out to people and use this as a good time to engage and educate people more. Now, coming back to like this broad agenda of this topic, like I just wanted to understand like how exactly does someone build like a marketing strategy? Like, what's the best way to go about it, and how do you kind of understand the basics into doing this?
Correct. Um, so basically, I start building a marketing strategy or a plan uh, with understanding my customer. I don't think one can build a strong plan without doing that first step. And so I'll go ahead and touch upon how I typically go about this process of understanding the customer. Obviously, I should be a user of the product so that I can understand the various use cases, and then look into the data and identify usage behavior. Start segmenting into power users, core users, occasional users, and also look at people who are churning. Um, I would then move on to trying to build personas. And in order to do that, you have to speak to customers, right? And you have to pick customers of each of the segments I just mentioned, power users, core users, and even churn users. Uh, Obviously, there's a limit to how many customers you can speak to, which is where conducting surveys could come in handy, right? You'd be able to send, information, questions across to a large set of people and get data at a certain scale. I then move on to trying to think like a customer. I put myself in a customer's shoes and start asking questions. I, Depending on the stage of customer that I'm looking to target, I might ask questions such as if they're on the product and exploring, say on the landing page and so on. What are they doing right now? Why are they here? What sort of solution are they looking for? I might start exploring the range of mental states, emotions that the customers would be going through at the moment of feeling. Um, and if they were prospecting, where would they go if they were looking for a solution? Is there a specific time of the day or time of the year during which they'd most likely be looking for a solution? or perhaps are in the right frame of mind for that solution? Where would they be if they're not looking for that solution? So these are some of the questions that I would ask. I think that this process would help with helping build audience segmentations. You'd be able to identify audiences that you should be targeting and deciding the order of priority. Should you be targeting, power users or core users first? You'll then be able to also identify channels on which you can reach these customers. Finally, all of this would help you shape your messaging. So I think the best way to look at it would be through an example. So I took a hypothetical scenario in my head. Let's say we were to, uh, be running a product that helps digital marketers with reporting on ad spends, right? Here's how I would go about learning about the customer. So I'd start off with a few questions, right? Is the customer an individual, a team, an agency? What size of company or agency would use the product? Which geographies would I be targeting? And some of this would be obvious perhaps from the pricing model that we're running. So at the end of the day, pricing does to an extent enable or disable certain market segments, right? Uh, I would then understand obviously the different users, the power, core, occasional, and people who churn. Uh, I would also talk to a lot of customers and conduct surveys. Some of these things can be done during the onboarding stage. A lot of times you would collect information on the size of the company, the role of the users, etc. Right, but you don't want to cause too much friction during onboarding. Um, I would then move on to say, building personas for these users. Uh, who would use the product? Is it the digital marketer running the ad? Is it the team lead, or is it a VP or a CXO? Right? Uh, how would they use the product? Would they be using it to track, performance on a daily or weekly basis, or is it a decision-making tool for team leads, or does it give a bird's eye view of spending and ROI measurement for CXOs? Once you've identified these things, you then know who you're going to be, targeting and what sort of messaging that you're going to put out there, right? Then I'm going to try and figure out where would these audience live, right? The digital marketer, let's say that we're targeting them, right? Um, where are they when they're not looking for a solution? They're probably on social platforms. They're probably reading a blog or listening to a podcast, or reading about something that's about marketing. I'm sticking to what they might do to enhance their professional skills and not what they're doing during entertainment, but you could go along those lines as well. And then the question is, where do they go when they're looking for a solution? And when are they looking for a solution? What stage is the customer in? And basis that, I would probably identify that they would perform a search. And it depends on which stage they're in. So they might perform a search to understand if there are solutions for the problem that they have. Or they might perform a much more focused search for a specific product if they know that there is a solution that exists, right? Or they might be going on to a platform like G2Crowd to identify if there are products that would help them with the particular problem that they're having, right? And so based on all of this information and understanding the stage of the customer, the people that we're targeting, etc., I would end up saying that, hey, if I'm doing paid marketing, I would definitely do a lot of search ads. I would run display campaigns focusing on custom intent and specific placement on relevant websites. I'd possibly do LinkedIn, perhaps even Twitter, and depending again on the stage of the product, the type of audience, why not Facebook and Instagram as well? YouTube would definitely be on the list of channels, targeting, say, specific topics or specific channels. A place like Quora is interesting because you can target keywords, topics, questions. You can promote an answer, On the brand marketing side, I would sponsor podcasts or YouTubers because personally I've experienced the value of reaching out to educators and influencers and content creators. Uh, Say on the content front, I would build specific content for different stages of the customer's discovery process. Uh, you know, it could be publishing it on my blog, as in the company blog, or doing a guest post, right? Perhaps put out an ebook or report that helps marketers understand trends, costs of advertising across industries, because we would have a lot of information about uh, spends on various digital platforms, because we are a platform that helps with reporting on digital ad spends. So a very interesting thing that I came across recently was a company called Profitwell. I believe it helps with tracking costs when it comes to running your SaaS product. Essentially, they put out an index that tracks revenue, churn, etc., on a daily basis across various companies in the SaaS space. And I believe B2C subscription space as well. And that's interesting because they got a lot of people to sign up and track that index. That's a great way to market at a time like this, right? You create a product from the information that you have, right? And Abhilash, you work with More Engage, right? So what I saw was interesting was y'all put out some data on how different companies, are going through the COVID situation, product usage of customers on these various, products across industries, because y'all have insights into this as a marketing automation tool. And I think those are very interesting ways to, build a strong marketing strategy based on this information, right? To summarize and reiterate what I mentioned at the beginning, a marketing plan is built on understanding your customer, and that's where I usually start.
Perfect, Justin. Thanks for sharing your insights here. Like, you went through the entire phase of how exactly you map your customer, find out where they exactly lie, and how do you reach out to them. And you gave in quite a few examples as well. Now, I just wanted to understand, like, definitely there are quite a lot of actionables here, but just going back a little into traditional marketing, how do you think things have changed from where marketing was like in the early ages versus how it is right now, like where we have so many ways to reach out to the user? uh, as you mentioned, the core functionality is basically knowing your customer, finding the right motivations, but how do you kind of draw like a parallel to something that existed years back?
Fundamentally, I don't think a lot of things have changed. We do have a lot more channels per se, uh, and each of those channels come with certain behaviors, but the fundamentals remain the same. So I I think one of the ways you can go ahead and develop uh, an understanding of how that behavior has changed is I would like to share like a thought experiment. So this actually came up when I was having a chat with my girlfriend, and she posed the question as to how would you build a brand during the barter system era, right? So the problem there is that commerce would usually occur within a very short radius because there was no mass media. People would most likely discover businesses through word of mouth, and essentially the businesses that stood out would differentiate on the basis of product, personality, and service, right? That's the only reason someone would refer you. So essentially breaking it down into that, uh, you would look at product features, and you'd look at quality and price, right? A customer would derive true value from the product if it was priced fairly. If it's too low, they won't value it enough. And if it's too high, the customer will feel that they overpaid, right? So that's the product portion of things. And on the personality front, you would want to be likable, honest, genuine, exhibit warmth, and other similar traits and behaviors. Coming to service, you would want to be friendly, but remember, you're not necessarily the customer's friend because there is a transaction involved over here. So this is going down to the first principles of how you would go about building a marketing system, and then start moving ahead in time, right? From the barter system, move to a system where there is currency, and then when there's a system with the printing press, where you could distribute information through written material, and then you get to the era of radio, and then television, and then digital. And so start looking at it from a first principles approach, and you will start seeing that each channel, gives, kind of creates a new set of behaviors, and you would want to mold your product communication, your marketing strategy based on that specific channel. Uh, there is no such formula, but there is a framework, and that framework is, just as I mentioned, start from the first principles, and that should help you get to understanding the best way to build across channels.
Perfect, Justin. Like that literally sums it up, where you kind of explain how exactly things worked in the past and how you could just relay on that same information and build for the future. And I also wanted to understand, based on your experience, like what kind of experiments have worked really well for you? Like, have you seen uh, something new that you've tried that's worked really well for you?
Sure. So I can probably give two examples. One is from back in 2014, 15, 16, when I was running my startup Cupic, the one where we were building a platform for visual artists to sell their work on various lifestyle products. We launched a new product line, and uh, it was notebooks, where artists design the cover of various notebooks, right? And I'm borrowing from what I mentioned earlier, where we were understanding our customer. What we managed to identify was our core users were women between 23 and 30 years of age from major cities in India. And we realized that the product purchase wasn't intent driven, but more of an impulse purchase, right? And the key use case for the product was for journaling or sketching, but was not limited to utility, but was also for aesthetic purposes and for the love of stationery products, right? Uh, so through that information, we identified Facebook as the primary channel. Instagram was also around and we used it, but it was not as big as it is today. Um, Primarily because the cost of ads were lower back then, and based on the customer buying behavior, we realized that Facebook worked for us, right? So again, based on the information on the use case of the product, we experimented with the messaging. We focused on various use cases, but also on the joy of ownership of an aesthetic product, right? Because like I mentioned, women collected notebooks not just for journaling and sketching, but because they loved stationery, right? And then we ran ads on those users, and what we saw was that we managed to acquire at a really effective cost, and the outcomes of targeting that core users was also driving word of mouth because of a very interesting effect, right? A product like notebooks was something that our core users derived satisfaction, product satisfaction, when others showed an interest in it. So you're most likely to kind of take a notebook out in public, and others would see it, comment on it, ask them, hey, where did you buy this? And so by targeting our core users, we managed to set off a bit of viral effect, and that brought us customers who were not necessarily in that core target segment, right? So that was something very interesting that we managed to pull off just by understanding our customer for that product line, right? Um, and right now, given that we are cutting down on non-ROI related spending here at Smallcase, we are focusing on education and content like a lot of companies out there, right? So our product is, we're not just building a new category for investment products beyond stocks and mutual funds, but we're also changing behavior of our customers. Basically, that behavior change is we're trying to shift, people from buying single stocks, which are, more risky, and get them to start investing in a basket of stocks, which are well diversified, thus spreading their risk, right? So there's a need to build awareness of the product as well as education about the features and benefits and so on. So it's not just right now, but we've identified since quite some time that YouTube is a very interesting place for us. It is the largest search engine in India. It's used more than Google for searches. Very interesting. And there are a number of creators who focus on investing content, right? So what we've partnered with them is to create educational content in various languages. So we created a strategy, by doing the following, where we identified motivators for each creator, right? And tailored content to fit seamlessly with the creator's content. So it was essentially different content for different channels, right? It was not one size fits all. We also explored different options for content creation beyond product shoutouts, right? So it was not just an integration within the creator's content, but the creator actually doing a whole video on our product without it coming across as a product promotion, right? We focused on adding value to their audience through our product. And I think this was very important for us. But I would say the most important thing was we worked with creators who loved our product and either would use our product or used our product, right? And I can't stress the importance of this, because if you work with an educator, content creator, or an influencer who loves your product, they're going to find ways to do more than just what they've been asked to do, right? They'll become your champions. So figure that out. Figure out how to make them your champions, and the rest will follow.
Perfect. This is actually really interesting. Thanks for sharing this. YouTube definitely is one of the biggest channels out there, and it's good to see like you guys figuring out the best way to utilize the most out of it.
Yeah, I would highly recommend. I think a lot of people already sponsor podcasts and so on. I'm not too familiar about the SaaS space when it comes to sponsoring YouTube channels, but I think that would be a very interesting place to explore. One of the things that we've noticed is it's not just about the building of awareness, but a lot of YouTubers carry a lot of uh, equity with their audience. Their audience trusts their judgment, trusts their opinion, and I feel that it might be a lot more than written content or perhaps even podcasts. I may be mistaken here, but that's what I've personally seen. But then it's primarily in the B2C space that I've worked on. So take this with a pinch of salt.
Perfect. Definitely, after experimenting, people find out what works for them. Uh, Another thing I went through was I read this blog that you'd written about what Tinder needs to do to improve its conversions. So I just wanted to get your understanding on how exactly did you like go about that entire piece.
Sure. So I used to use Tinder. I haven't used it, in quite some time, because I have a girlfriend right now, so essentially don't have a use for the product, which is interesting as well because essentially Tinder as a platform would see a churn of users when they've achieved an objective. So essentially that churn is not such a bad thing because you ended up working for the user, as in the product worked for the user, right? So I was curious as to how do you measure such churn, right? And what I came up with was, what if you could extend the use of the product beyond just meeting people, right? So you could not just start a monetization of that, hey, two people have been matched. We've monetized the whole process of getting two people to match, but how about monetizing the post-matching process, right? So what if Tinder launched places to meet? So after you match and you've decided to meet, Tinder gives you the option to, meet at a certain set of places or, experiences and so on. And it could open its platform to vendors who could list deals for activities, restaurants, coffee shops, etc. And a bunch of things could happen out of this, right? It becomes a revenue stream. It also, Tinder has been focusing on safety. They launched a few safety features recently. So by vetting places, they would be able to also provide safe spaces to meet. But very interestingly, it could also be used as a measure of success, right? Two people meeting and churning off the platform could be now measured. And that's how that idea came into place, right? Another interesting thing was A/B testing of the bio. I found that fascinating because I would have loved to pay for the experience of being able to A/B test my bio, right? I think that's something that's interesting. So a lot of these insights were derived from my usage of the product, and I think that's something that I stressed earlier. Understanding your customer doesn't just help you build marketing strategy, but it helps building your entire product and growth strategy and perhaps even monetization strategy, right? So that's what my piece was about when it came to product suggestions for Tinder.
Pretty interesting, Justin. Like, I really love the breakdown and how you brought across that these are some improvements that can be made. I'm sure, like, I think someone from the Tinder team definitely needs to look at that post.
I hope so. I would love their feedback, and I would love to understand how they go about building product features around monetization, engagement, etc. And I'm sure that they would have thought of some of these things, and I would be really curious as to why they haven't built it out yet. I'm sure that there are reasons that I couldn't think of. So I had done a product breakdown quite some time ago on the live trivia apps. So HQ Trivia in the US, and closer to home, there was a really popular product called Loco. So I did a growth teardown of that, and I did get some decent feedback on it. I am working on a growth teardown of Zerodha. So they are India's largest stock brokerage firm, and they process, I believe, close to 15% of the trade volumes in India. And if I'm not mistaken, they're one of the largest brokers in the world. Uh, Interestingly, they did all of this without raising any external capital. They are bootstrapped. They are profitable, and it's amazing. I happened to have a chat with Nitin Kamath, the founder, when we were, creating a video with him. Essentially, they don't really have a marketing team, and they haven't spent money on advertising. So to become the largest brokerage in India and one of the largest brokers in the world without external capital, without spending money on advertising is phenomenal. And that's what I'm planning to tackle next with the growth teardown.
Looking forward to reading that when it comes out.
Sure.
Thanks for taking time out, Justin, for this discussion. Like, we've got a lot of insights from you. Like, how do you actually go about thinking of first principles when you go ahead and build your marketing plan, and also so many examples that you've shared from your experience. I'm definitely sure that the audience has got some very good actionable takeaways from this discussion. Like, just to round this up, I wanted to do like a quick rapid fire with you. What's an article that you've read recently that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so I recently came across this series of posts about coaching networks. It was written by the team at Emergence Capital. Um, it's not a new piece. I discovered it recently. Essentially, coaching networks are about platforms that don't just help with automation, but over time, they also enable people using the tools to make more effective decisions by pooling knowledge together, right? So think of, say, a platform that helps customer support teams. Essentially, it helps them pool their knowledge, build that knowledge base that would then suggest effective methods for different customers. So you're having a live conversation with a customer, and the coaching network suggests various solutions, either to upsell or to solve a particular problem. So the whole series was about how tools will start moving towards becoming coaching networks. So automation won't necessarily replace humans in the sense that we know of, but it should augment people. It should augment the whole process of delivering value through the product. So that's an interesting thing that I read recently.
Perfect. And a newsletter that you read every day, is there one that you follow?
So I'm a little tardy when it comes to reading newsletters regularly, but recently I did subscribe to the newsletter of Ashe Sangui, and there's another that's on Substack, and another one on Substack is Divinations. So I just came across them recently and I subscribed. So I'm looking forward to the content from that. Also, interestingly, I subscribe to this WhatsApp channel being run by Anmol Maini. It's a paid subscription where he, gives, a daily update or something interesting about the Indian startup ecosystem on a daily basis.
Quite interesting. I'll probably look into that, the paid subscription on the WhatsApp group. And Divinations as a newsletter is very interesting, deep dives into strategy. So that's something that I read as well. And also, Justin, like, who are people that you absolutely should follow on Twitter? Like, since I know that you're active on Twitter, like, who are like 2-3 people that you would suggest everyone to follow?
Sure. So the folks I'm mentioning don't have a blue tick because a lot of the very popular ones, most of the listeners would already perhaps be following them. I recently came across, Julian Lair. Um, I think I'd read one of his blog posts about signaling. I would highly recommend checking out that article. I follow Jeff Morris Jr. on Twitter. He is quite popular. Essentially, he I think ran revenue at Tinder. Um, I I find stuff from Sajid Pai of Bloom Ventures quite interesting, and I tend to enjoy the stuff he writes. Uh, Another interesting Twitter account from a product manager at Gojek, Manas Saloy. I think he tweets a lot and writes a lot, and there's typically a lot of content that is food for thought.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing those suggestions with us. Thanks a lot, Justin. Thanks for taking time out. And how can people reach out to you? Like, you've shared so much information. I'm definitely sure people have a lot of questions.
Yeah, so I am sort of active on Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, but I tend to, uh, you know, check the platform very frequently because I find my content over there. So I'm on Twitter. You can search for Justin Alva. My handle's a little more complicated. It's Cosmish Music. Yeah, my fascination with 1970s German psychedelic rock is quite evident over there. I'm on LinkedIn again. Justin Alva. A search for that should surface me. Also, I'm trying to write more often, and can be found at justinalva.com. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll add all the links, articles, and the Twitter handles and all the information Justin's mentioned. I'll add all of that on the show notes. Thanks, Justin. Thanks for taking time out for the podcast.
A pleasure, Abhilash. I'm glad I could do this, and pretty excited to hear the other speakers that you have lined up.
Yes, absolutely. So we are trying to do like episodes every week now. So you will definitely have a lot of content coming in soon.
Perfect. I look forward to it. Thanks a lot.